Hi, I'm so glad that you have decided to join us here in the Spanish department. Here at Calvin, my name is Holly Cruz Lyon, and Corey Vanderslice works together with me. And we're really excited to just be here at Calvin Christian. I love languages, I love cultures, and I love teaching. I'm really passionate about the Lord, walking with Him, and I'm also really excited to be in a school and a place where I get to share that with students in my classes, where I get to share that in the halls, in our small groups, and all kinds of other opportunities. So that is, deep in my heart. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what Spanish looks like here at Calvin. And I want to just start off, back here in the corner of the room, it says, address the mess. And I start the year off asking Spanish students to think about what that could mean. And the most obvious thing that they come up with is that it means language learning is messy. And that's very true. Language learning is messy. And we actually want them to be willing to risk, to be willing to make mistakes, to let language be messy instead of striving to have it always go perfectly. In addition, though, I ask them to dig a little bit deeper than that. Because language is not, learning Spanish is not just language, it's also so many other things. And so I ask students to think about cultural things, about current events. We have all kinds of things happening in this world, and often those things remind us that our world's fallen and that there is brokenness in addition to beauty. And so we want to discover the beauty that's here in this world, all around us in different cultures, represented in different peoples, but we also want to address the messes that there are. We want to talk about how do we look at those things as Christians? What might we need to do? How might we be called to respond as Christians to those things? And so we want to address the messes that we see as we look at different places and people and traditions and cultures. Additionally, though, I invite students to look a little bit into their own hearts, because we have messes in our own hearts too. We have areas where we carry assumptions about people or cultures or things, and we want to invite the Holy Spirit into those places. We want to invite Him in to our hearts, to look at our hearts and to help us address the messes that we have in there so that we can grow, so that we can be challenged to be more like Him. And so that's part of what we really want to be doing in Spanish class as well, is really looking at our own hearts so that we can love the Lord better and love our world better as well. So I don't know if this is true for you or not. It's true for many people. And the question is, will it be any different for my son or daughter? And that I can assure you the answer is yes, it will be. A little bit about me. I was taught probably the way that you were taught, many of you, and as a new teacher I turned around and I taught the same way. Taught in New Mexico for a few years, and then I moved overseas to China as a missionary for 5 years. And when I was in China as a missionary, I only knew how to say hello in the beginning. And the really important things for me to be able to say were, I need, help me, I want, where do I go, do you have? And I, in learning Chinese, began to really think about how unnatural it was to teach Spanish in the way that I had taught and the way that I had learned. I began to think, why do I start with verb charts? Why do I count off half a point for accent marks? That's not how I'm acquiring this Chinese language that I'm working on. And so later, when we moved back to America, I had this dissatisfaction inside of me, and I discovered a great alternative, a great way of teaching that is out there. And so I am really excited. I'm going to share a little bit of this with you. So many of you were part of something that would have been called language learning, the verb charts and lots of grammar, and you were expected to produce equally everything that you were given. We want to take a different approach, and that's called language acquisition. If you think about a baby, if you think about when your kids were growing, that first year of life, they gave nothing, they produced nothing, they just received input, all kinds of input. And then beginning, it was single words that they were producing and that they were saying. Then it was little phrases. And then it was, like my 3-year-old says, hymns no like it. Well, you all know what that means. It doesn't have perfect grammar, but that's where we start. And so that's our goal in language acquisition as well, is that students would acquire the language, but that they would acquire that language naturally. So we do a lot of things here at Calvin. The method that we use is something that's called Comprehensible Input, and this method uses all kinds of things to allow us to be about 90% in the target language. And so we are speaking and giving input all throughout class in Spanish, but we're doing it in a way that is completely comprehensible to our students. And so in the room, you'll see I have signs all over, and walking and pointing all the time to those signs. I'm putting words up here on the board so that students are always understanding and tracking with me, and that they're absorbing that language as we go. And so they're absorbing that language. These are a lot of different things that we do here in class. We have student-centered conversations. This is awesome. We sit as classes and we talk about things like what we did last weekend. We talk in Spanish about things that we like, about sports and activities that we enjoy. We talk about what someday we want to be. And we have these conversations in Spanish with really focused target language structures that we're working on. We have a lot of videos that we use. Videos are a really fun way to teach language. We'll play a short film and we'll pause it, and we'll talk about everything that's on the screen. And having all of this imagery really helps make sure that that language is comprehensible to students. So we have a lot of images up here. We use videos to tell stories, because stories is a great way for students to be able to learn language. We have a lot of songs and chants. Music has this incredible way of getting into our heads and locking things into our brain, and so we utilize songs and chants often. Student theater, students love to come up front. They love to act things out sometimes, tell stories together, and so we do that as well. And then finally, stories and novels. In first year Spanish, we start with 2 stories. And then we move on and we increase that in the years that go. At Calvin, we have 4 years of Spanish that we offer. So all of these things produce students being able to speak Spanish. Hablo español. We do come in with some grammar lessons, some explanation, but we do that after they've acquired those pieces of language. So at Calvin, we're really committed to meeting all students' needs. We want to offer extra support to students that need it, and we want to challenge students who are really flourishing and need that extra challenge. It's really exciting to me to use this methodology in teaching Spanish, because I believe that it really beautifully allows us to do both of these. Some students just need those basic things repeated over and over and over, and so we work really hard on our target structures, and some students walk away with those basic structures. But as we talk in class, as I'm presenting information, I'm adding in all kinds of extra vocabulary, extra content, and some students are able to absorb all of that extra vocabulary. We have all kinds of outside of class help, all different ways that we are willing as Spanish teachers and as a school to work with students to help each student grow wherever they're at. So I'm going to take questions in just a minute, but thank you so much for joining us here. And yeah, we're just excited about what's happening here in the Spanish department at Calvin.